Yeah, so is it okay now? Is the audio fine? Okay, so let's just continue. Yeah, so as you can see in this one, black has pretty much a perfect isolated queen pawn position. The knight just blockades on d5. The e4 square is very weak. Black's pieces are perfectly placed. The knight on f6, d5 defend each other. The bishop is very strong on this diagonal, and d5 defend each other. The bishop is very strong on this diagonal, and the other pieces are soon going to join the game. And if you observe White's position, it's just perfectly. I mean, it's just completely hopeless. The bishop is horrible. The knight is not doing anything. There's no kingside attack. The bishop is useless. These squares are extremely weak. So black pretty much has a perfect position here. Let's see how he manages to convert. White has to, I mean, do something. So he takes on d5. There's no real reason behind this. He's running out with the queen now. The queen and bishop make this perfect battery on the long diagonal. There's always threats of checkmate on g2. So white tries whatever he can. f5, trying to create something, but there's just nothing for him here. Bishop d6, attacking the knight on e5. And there's no real way to maintain the knight now. Again, this bishop is quite strong. The knight is going to come to g4 if you move the knight. So, yeah, white tries this at the end, but now if you see the position, black has just won a pawn for free. His pieces are well placed. The bishop is very strong here, and white's king is a little exposed. So this is, I mean, just completely lost for white. Let's just see how black converts. We'll just go through this quickly because it's not that relevant. Yeah, so he's just exchanging all the pieces and going for the end game. And now white is just pretty easy. Yeah, and I mean the pawn is going to queen next move. There's just no hope. And if you take, I just recapture it. I'm a whole piece up. This pawn is not going anywhere. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry. This is a different variation. This is. Yeah, I'm sorry. The board is a little messed up. So let's just end this for now because it's not that relevant. We really wanted to learn what the strategies were in the isolated pawns position. The board was a little messed up. That was winning for black, but there was some problem with the position. Yeah, so let's just move on to the next game. Yeah. So in this game, we are going to look at the opposite case. We're going to see how how the side with the isolated queen's pawn has to play. So even in this game, it is Botvinnik versus a player called Vidmar. But this time, Botvinnik is on the winning side. Yeah, in this game, let's just see. Just go through the opening quickly. So I think all of you know what this position is. This is the Queen's Gambit decline. A very popular position in chess, a very well-known and played theoretical position. Okay. So here, black has options. He can either choose to go for the IQP or he can do something else. He can take on c4, for example. But he decides to go for the isolated queen's pawn position. Yeah. Yeah. So as you can see, we have the IQP structure here in this game. White has a weak pawn on d4, and but black has, but he has good attacking chances. While black can blockade the square and try to attack this pawn d4. So if you notice, Botvinnik was one of the biggest proponents of the IQP positions. He liked playing IQP positions with both sides, and he was the one who developed the theory in IQP positions the most out of all the players of his time. Yeah. So here again, as we saw in the last game, Black has quite a few choices. In this game, he goes slightly wrong. So as we already saw in the last game, some ideas, for example, are a6 trying to come to b5. So white has to play a4 to stop b5. But then black gets the b4 square. This would be something he can consider. Instead, he just decides to go for the knight to b6, attacking the bishop on c4, obviously. But now he doesn't really have the b3 square because white can always play pawn to a3. But if he had included pawn to a6, white would have had to play pawn to a4, and then the b4 square would have been under black's control. So here, white has two options. He can go to bishop. He can go to d3 or b3. He chooses to go to b3 mainly because you can always come to c2 and get a queen to d3 from b3. And when the bishop leaves this diagonal, this pawn might be weak in some cases. So he decides to go to b3 with the bishop. Yeah, and here black has quite a few options. He can go knight b to d5, knight f to d5, pawn to a5. So there are a lot of options for black. He decides to go bishop to d7. So obviously one more option was to go knight to d5, just blockading the d5 square. Then white had options like knight to e5, rook to e1. He can get his rook to c1, bishop to c2, and yeah, this kind of structure, the ideal structure for white, where he just develops all his pieces to the center and tries to go for a baiting attack on the king side. But instead, black chooses bishop to d7, which is also quite natural. And white continues with his plan. I think we already know by now. So white's plan is just create this battery with the queen and the bishop. Bring your rooks to the center of the board, either on d1, e1, or c1, d1. Get the knight to e5. Yeah, and maybe exchange the knight at the right time. So black is also doing what he's supposed to do. Uh, he wants to blockade on d5, but in this position, it would have been better for him to come to d5 with this knight because, as you can see, one of the main aims for the side playing against the isolated queen's pawn is to exchange the pieces, and this would have allowed him to exchange some pieces because of the trade. So he could maybe do something like this, and yeah, something like this in black should be perfectly fine in these kind of positions. He's very solid. The pieces are getting exchanged. His bishop is going to find a good square on c6, for example. Knight could reroute itself. So this is fine for black. But instead he decides to go to d5 with the other knight. And while this might look quite natural, this doesn't really allow the trade of the bishops. So yeah, this is not as good as the other option. Now white just follows through with this plan. Bring the knights to the center of the board and get all your pieces developed to the perfect squares. So black's moves, even though they look quite natural, are not that effective dealing against this structure because if you notice some of the pieces on the queen side, and it's not that easy to defend against a king side attack. So white's moves are very simple. He now gets the rook to d1 in the center of the board, adding some extra support to this pawn and possible swinging in the future. So again, black makes a mistake. Knight b4, it doesn't really do anything. Obviously, it attacks the queen, but it's just getting the queen to a good square. So the question is, where should the queen go? Okay, so yeah, everyone has got it right. The queen has to go to h3 here. Queen g3 is not such a great idea because you're not exactly threatening anything. I mean, he could, if you want to go like, let's say, even if he, excuse me, if he plays some random move like rook c8, this is not that effective because he always has this moon knight e8 defending on g7. Excuse me. So the best move for white here is queen to h3. The idea is very simple. He wants to kick the knight off and come to c2 with the bishop. Excuse me, guys. Sorry. Yeah. So the idea is quite simple. Just wants to kick the knight off with a3 and come to c2 with the bishop. Put some pressure on the h7 pawn. And also h6, you always have to be. Excuse me again. Sorry. H6, you always have to be careful about bishop to h6 sacrifices. Down the rook is again very well placed here. It's perfectly placed to attack on the king side. Yeah, I'm fine. Sorry. Yeah. So bishop to d5. White just wants to exchange the bishops here because it's not that easy for him to find any great moves. So here I'm giving black what he wants exactly. Now that the bishops are exchanged, there's no real kingside attack. It's not that easy at all. And his pieces are on perfect squares, blockading on d5. So instead, white decides to capture the bishop with the knight. Now there's no real danger of losing your attack because the bishop can always come to c2 and white is going to have a very strong attack. So black recaptures and this is the this is one of the best moves or ideas of the game. He just the kingside pawn structure with pushing the pawn to f5. This is going to create some weaknesses in white's position. So the knight squares are going to be very weak. The knight on d5 is going to be kind of loose. And there might be some possibility of the rook swinging like this. So f4 is quite a strong move by him. Yeah, so black basically can't really react on the king side, so he brings his rook into the game with rook to c8. White just follows through with his plan f5. You can see now white's pieces are placed perfectly. The rook has joined the game on f5. This diagonal is now extremely attractive for white. The knight is perfectly placed, targeting the f7 square. The rook can join the game very easily with rook to f1. There are ideas of knight to g4, for example. You could even take the knight. So white is doing very well. Yeah. So now black just blunders with queen to d6, and he allows a fantastic combination. So can any of you spot it? Yeah, we already got the answer. Yeah, exactly. So I think all of you are quite good tactically. So Botvinnik obviously found this. Knight captures f7. Now whatever white does, black does, it's completely losing. Capture d5. So he captures with the rook. Should captures here. Captures here. Rook d6. The rook just comes to d7. So the rook is pinned. Cannot capture the rook because it's pinned. And if the queen captures, you just capture back. For example, this you still can't capture back, so black just resigned here. Yeah. So as we saw in this game, it was the opposite of the last position where black demonstrated how to play against the isolated queen's pawn, blockade the square on d5 and activate your pieces, attack, put some pressure on the d4 pawn. In this game, White instead went for a successful kingside attack, just completely opened the position up with f4, f5. When the light squares were very weak, the knight was perfectly placed, the rook got into the game. So yeah, this is so yeah, this is basically the way you play with and also against the isolated queen's pawn position. So both are quite interesting and completely different approaches. So if you have any questions or anything, you can ask me now. Yeah, the class is over. That's all.